Sophie, thank you. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Monday's edition of Look North. Our top story tonight. Shocking new figures reveal the true scale of children being brought up on the breadline in Yorkshire.
When you think of child poverty, a lot of people think of third world countries, but it's happening right now in Sheffield to a lot of people, a lot of children and a lot of families.
The first ever Child Poverty Summit has been held today in Sheffield. We'll hear from experts about their course to tackle rising concerns. Also tonight, parking the problem. New rules come into play today to give people more time to buy tickets on private car parks.
You can't do this. This is England.
This is Bradford.
We're joined by the former Bradford pharmacist turned crime writer whose books have been turned into a new cop series, Verdie. And Gladiators ready. We catch up with the prison officer who took them on and won.
Well, we've had 9 days without sunshine, but today that changed. A bit of blue sky in Wakefield, and things are definitely on the up this week. Join me for the detailed forecast.
Good evening and thank you for your company. First tonight, just how many children in our region are being brought up in poverty. Latest figures show that around 1 in 4 youngsters in Yorkshire live in households which are struggling to afford the basics to live healthily for reasons which include low wages, high energy bills and a lack of affordable housing. So just how bad is the situation? Here's what a survey done by Save the Children charity found. Around 22%, that's nearly 1 in 4 children in our region live in poverty, and campaigners are worried that could rise. 3/4 of younger adults surveyed, those aged 18 to 34, were most worried about levels of child poverty. And there are now calls for the government to come up with a strategy to abolish the 2-child limit to benefit, which would lift 360,000 children out of poverty overnight. Well, today, South Yorkshire hosted its first ever summit on child poverty. As Tom Ingle now reports.
Nina, 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 Nina.
The early years of our lives should be happy, carefree and all about unlocking potential. But these parents know how poverty stymies that.
When you think of child poverty, a lot of people think of third world countries, but it's happening right now in Sheffield to a lot of people, a lot of children and a lot of families. And I think people are quite embarrassed to label themselves as they're struggling with child poverty, but I mean, I am as well.
Their shared frustration led here.
We know that for every 3 children in the UK, or roughly 9 children in a classroom of 30 are facing poverty.
Save the Children brought together local leaders at a conference with a view to finding immediate answers.
The Breakfast Club, for example, that we've been involved with at Meadows Nursery, has brought together parents who have been able to find mutual support and understand their needs, provide support to each other, but it's also become a hub to pull in people from local services so that the local services are coming to the parents and engaging with them on what they need.
South Yorkshire's Mayor Oliver Coppard and Children's Laureate Frank Cottrell-Boyce led a session about the importance of reading stories to children.
I've just read that along the 83 bus route through Sheffield, life expectancy drops by 10 years. I'm here to talk about books and reading, and everybody wants the best for their children. We do know that one of the things that you can do for your children that's incredibly effective at reducing that equality gap is read to them. If parents get the chance to read to their children, especially when they're very young, preschool, they're given this huge invisible privilege. And if they're not given that privilege, they're left with this very big disadvantage.
I work part-time and look after 2 children.
There are real challenges juggling family and work life for the mums at nursery. It's a regular topic of conversation.
I'm hoping that they will take notice and they will listen to what's actually working in the communities and what we're trying to achieve. So the best we can hope for is that they will actually listen and maybe we'll get some funding to do different things in areas and we can get a lot of help to do that.
A one-day conference might not immediately make a difference, but there is a chance seeds of solutions for future generations might be sown. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Thanks, Tom. Next tonight, private car parks that have been fining people for not paying within a few minutes of arriving have changed their rules following criticism of Sheffield-based parking company. XL Parking Services threatened thousands of drivers with court action for not paying in time, a practice denounced in the House of Commons. Kathy Killick takes up the story.
The Steel Cauldron in Sheffield is a quirky, wizard-inspired tea rooms and tavern, popular with families and people that like things a little bit different. But some of the clientele have a complaint. Nothing to do with the cafe. It's all about the parking. Well, this is the nearest car park. It's run by Sheffield-based company XL. And up to now, if you didn't pay within 10 minutes of arriving, you'd be hit with a fine of £100. If you didn't have the app, you needed to get change, your toddler threw a wobbly, hard luck, and numerous customers have had to pay up.
These people are taking hundreds and hundreds of pounds off people who are quite defenceless in many ways and are scared of going to court, and they use fear to make money, which I just think is, it's the last thing the world needs, isn't it?
Rosie Hudson faced court action by XL when she couldn't pay within a 5-minute limit in Derby. Her case was raised in Parliament.
I suggest a 5-minute rip-off charge as an example of what needs to go.
The subsequent pressure has led to today's abandonment of time limits to pay up, but potential problems remain. People who are still fined can appeal it with an organisation called the Independent Appeals Service. Sounds good. However, this organisation is paid for by a trade body called the International Parking Community, which in turn is run by the car park operators. For example, XL's boss, Simon Renshaw-Smith, sits on its steering committee alongside other car park operators. So many people are asking, how independent can the Independent Appeal Service really be? Simon Towers is one of those people. He's embroiled in a forest of paperwork after he exceeded the 10-minute limit because the ticket machines had been removed. A new app wouldn't install on his oldish phone, so he paid using his wife's phone, but not within the 10 minutes. Even so, the appeal was turned down.
For thousands and thousands of drivers, this isn't just, a one-off extreme situation for me. It's happening all the time. And I think that should be made genuinely independent and come under the government, whether that's Department of Transport or wherever. It can't be beyond the wit of man to create that.
I think until they are not self-regulating as an industry, they will look for another loophole, because at the end of the day, a leopard doesn't change its spots until someone makes it do it.
The government is working on a new code of practice for the private parking industry. In the meantime, XL has said it's fully supportive of the changes and will adhere to the code. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Well, earlier I spoke to Simon Williams, who's the head of policy at the RAC. I asked him why private parking is such an unregulated Wild West.
It should be regulated, and in fact in 2019 an Act of Parliament was passed creating the Private Parking Code of Practice. Unfortunately though, the private parking companies didn't like it very much, challenged it legally, and the code had to be withdrawn in 2022. We're still working on trying to get that code over the line. In fact, the RAC is part of a consumer working group with the government working on the code. We hope very much that it will be launched hopefully later this year. But in the meantime, the industry have launched their own code, which they feel mirrors the government code, which I can assure you it doesn't, and that's why we have these problems.
I suppose some private parking companies would argue that they're in business to make money. What's wrong with that?
They are definitely in business to make money. Their code has a parking charge notice of £100. The government's code will cap that at 50. The government's code will also put a ban on the use of debt recovery fees. That's the fees that you get. So you get the £100 in the post, and then all of a sudden, after 28 days, that will be inflated to £170 for no good reason, and then scaring you half to death into paying. It doesn't reflect at all the alleged contravention, the breaking of the rules of not paying or staying too long, and we're wholly against that. So that's why we're supporting the government code, not the industry's own code.
Should the government be doing more to step in to regulate this industry in which it seems the private parking companies can get away with what the hell they like?
The government has done it, passed an act of parliament that had cross-party support. Unfortunately, the private parking industry objected and took it to judicial review. Hopefully that is all resolved now, and we will get to the official code of practice coming into force, and drivers will have a far better time and won't be held at ransom by private parking companies and their threatograms.
OK, Simon Williams from the RAC, thank you very much for coming on the programme today.
Thank you.
A new operator has finally been found to run the newly restored music venue Bradford Live. The venue's been empty for some considerable time after a previous operator pulled out. Well, Sabir Pervez joins us now. Sabir, this is quite a significant development, isn't it?
It's hugely significant. As you mentioned, the venue's been vacant for over 20 years. And as you probably remember, the NEC Group took over about 8 years ago, and they pulled out last year. Now, what's interesting is that initially this venue was forecast to cost between 22 million and 25 million. It's actually cost £50 million, and Bradford Council has footed the majority of that bill. They've paid 44 million towards it, and the government, the Heritage Fund and other groups, the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, have contributed to the remaining. The new operators are the Trafalgar Entertainment Group. They take over from autumn of this year, and I mean, it's great news because it's during the City of Culture, but what you have to remember is when the NEC Group pulled out last year, there was a lot of alarm, a lot of fear, because they'd put on events and then they had to cancel those events and refund tickets. But this time, this new operator, the Trafalgar Group, they've said the venue will host a huge range of shows from live events to comedy. And I just want to say, you know, on a personal note, I'm a Bradfordian. I grew up the road from the old Odeon, as it was called, and I remember visiting it frequently. It will instill hope in Bradfordians, but also I think the golden era of the Bradford Odeon lives on now in the promise of Bradford Live.
A lot of our viewers will be asking, or will have many questions. The devil's in the details, Sabir. When are we likely to know more?
Well, we don't know much beyond what I've told you. We'll find out more at the end of this month.
Sabir, thank you very much. Next tonight, a former police officer has been jailed after sending inappropriate messages to a vulnerable woman in Doncaster. 41-year-old Stuart Trentham was sentenced at Sheffield Crown Court today after admitting an offence of misconduct in public office. David Rhodes was there.
In 2022, Stuart Trentham had been assigned as a police officer to a case where a vulnerable woman had alleged that explicit images of herself had been shared online by a third party. South Yorkshire Police closed an investigation into that case when they couldn't identify a suspect. But Stuart Trentham told the complainant that he was still investigating the case when in fact he wasn't. He then went on to communicate with the woman via his own personal mobile phone and email devices. The court heard that Trentham had sent inappropriate and sexualised messages to this woman. One of the messages he sent involved him posing in a picture of his police uniform, and it included a winking smiley emoji. The court heard that Trentham never formed a physical relationship with this woman and that he pleaded guilty at an initial hearing. In court today, the recorder of Sheffield, Jeremy Richardson, said because Trentham had lied to a vulnerable woman and that this was a serious offence, he was issuing an immediate custodial sentence of 9 months in order to restore some public confidence to the police. David Rhodes, BBC Look North, Sheffield Crown Court.
OK, let's get some news in brief now. Bradford West MP Naz Shah is calling on the government to take action against Bradford Teaching Hospitals Trust after what she describes as an ongoing victimisation of whistleblowers. In a letter, she called on ministers and the NHS to remove the current board chair and halt any disciplinary action against governors raising concerns. The Hospital Trust is already under improvement orders from NHS bosses following concerns raised last year about governance and finance. NHS England said it's already taking regulatory action and the hospital trust declined to comment due to ongoing investigations.
And in one of the lesser spotted sports in our region, a man from West Yorkshire picked up a medal in the Bobsleigh World Cup in Norway yesterday. Leon Greenwood from Batley was part of the four-man team who took home bronze in the final race, something that hasn't happened since 1995. Missing out on silver by just 0.04 of a second, Leon says British bobsleighing is getting better and better and that they're going for gold in the World Championships next month.
It feels amazing, honestly, getting a bronze medal, you know, overall, honestly, I can't describe it. We're a little bit gutted that we didn't get that silver and we didn't finish it off, but, you know, end of the day, we got a bronze, so, yeah, can't complain. But now we're just looking forward to the World Champs and we'll rest up, 2 weeks to rest up, and then we're going at it again, so excited.
Well done to them and best of luck next month in America. That's your sport, Phil.
Thank you, Beth. Now, it's the new television crime drama that's hooked the nation. Set in Bradford, Verdie is a 6-part action thriller with plenty of local landmarks starring as backdrops to the on-screen appeal. Now, the series is based on books by Amit Dand, a local lad who grew up in the city. For those who haven't tuned in yet, here's a snapshot.
You can't do this. This is England.
This is Bradford.
Do you see our Verdie?
What are you doing?
We could change the city, you and me, make it better.
Hey, I'm changing it the right way.
You're late.
You look beautiful.
I know.
There'll always be a boss in this city. Might as well be one you can work with. You're my brother-in-law. I don't work for you.
It's the people we love who suffer when we don't do what we promise.
Oh, it makes hairs on the back of your neck stand on end, doesn't it? Well, I'm delighted to say the writer of Verdie, Amit Dand, is with me now. Amit, thanks for coming in. How on earth do you get an idea for something like this?
I always wanted to have a crime thriller set in the city of Bradford. I thought it was a really cinematic, beautiful city, and I was very aware that South Asian representation had been confined to comedy, and I wanted to do drama. So, you know, for me, it was about taking concepts of, you know, the crime thriller genre, something exciting, bombastic and sexy, and transferring it to the streets of Bradford.
You are a Bradford lad. How important was it that there was that South Asian representation on screen?
It was important to me because it's never been done before, and I thought actually to create something in the city of Bradford also needs to be representative of the city. But I just wanted that kind of cool action figure of Harry Verdie that was maverick and would break the rules and was just exciting to watch because, again, like I said, we haven't seen them before.
Harry Verdie he's a complex character. He has a lot of conflicts within his life. You wrote the book and it became obviously what we see on screen now, but where did the original inspiration come?
The original inspiration, I grew up in a corner shop and I was watching video rental and I was watching thrillers way outside my age range, and I came across Silence of the Lambs, watched it foolishly, realised quite quickly that it was based on a book. And it was my first ever realisation that thrillers could be based on books. And I was just really amazed at that. I thought, how can something that started off as a book transfer to television? And I just really wanted to have my own spin on that. And I started creating Harry Verdie to be my version of those really cool, bombastic thrillers that I'd been brought up watching in the 90s.
And I should say your trade, really, you're a pharmacist, aren't you? Which is a strange transition from a pharmacist to a screenwriter or a novelist.
No, well, being a pharmacist is just about meeting people every day. You know, I served 300 people in my pharmacy. It was a really busy pharmacy, and all I was doing was having these interactions with people. You know, 300 hellos, 300 goodbyes, 300 how are yous, and what you start to learn a lot about the people that you're serving. And it transfers into when you're writing because there's all these quirks that characters will have, there's all these personalities, and for me it was a really valuable thing. You know, I don't think that I would have become a writer if I hadn't been a pharmacist.
Well, it's great to see you enjoying the success. Quickly, 10 seconds, is there likely to be another series, do you think?
I certainly hope so, but for now I'm just going to enjoy Series 1 and probably take a well-earned holiday.
Lovely, thanks for coming in, good to see you.
Cheers, thanks very much.
And if you haven't tuned in, you can see Verdie tonight, BBC One at 9 o'clock. And of course, it's always available on the BBC iPlayer too. Now, we'll stay on the theme of television because a Yorkshire prison officer entertained millions of us on Saturday night as she took on the Gladiators. Poppy Bulmer from Goole put in a brilliant performance to win her heat and get through to the quarter-finals. Now, Poppy works as a PE instructor at a Young Offenders Institute in Wetherby. And Nicola Rees has been to meet her.
Poppy Bulmer, the woman who took on the Gladiators and won.
Just a couple more swings, Poppy, and you might be there.
She became the first contestant to complete the Hang Tough event, dodging Sabre to earn 10 points.
I know that Sabre, who I was up against, that's her favourite game and she's really good at it, and I literally did just leave her hanging, so yeah, I was absolutely buzzing to get to the other side and be the first person to do that.
Well, I'll pretend to be the gladiator. You go first.
Chasing me. 3, 2, 1, go.
From the bright lights of the studio, Poppy's back in the exercise yard at Wetherby Prison, where she's enjoying some extra kudos from her colleagues.
She was absolutely unbelievable. The crowd went wild, all her friends, family. It was, like I say, it was unbelievable. A great day for her.
Oh, it was amazing. She was an absolute monster. Fast out the blocks and just strong and performed really well.
My supporters were absolutely wild, like literally just out of the seats, screaming, shouting.
Teaching PE to young offenders is a physical job that keeps Poppy fit, but it's nothing compared to battling a gladiator.
I think people automatically assume that because you work in a prison, you know, you're tough and you're used to dealing with difficult situations. And it did surprise me how hard the gladiators hit. I was actually black and blue, to be honest, but yeah, when you're not used to that kind of physical contact, it does take some getting used to.
Poppy suffers from hair loss caused by the autoimmune disease alopecia, but she chose not to wear a wig on screen to send a message to others in her position.
Going on to Gladiators was a great opportunity for me to be able to show other people that may have alopecia, not to hold back from things, to still continue doing what you love, to not be afraid or feel different, just to absolutely own it, basically. I just want to come on and fly the flag for other people that maybe struggle with alopecia and just put it out there that they should just follow their dreams and do what they love. I do actually love my wigs. I've got lots of different ones and it's always fun to wear different wigs, but it's always really nice to take it off as well. Like, it's a great feeling. Don't have to worry about my hair being sweaty. I'm just me. Like, when I don't have my wig on, it's just me and what I've got to face in front of me.
The inmates at Wetherby are teenagers and many are serving lengthy sentences for serious crimes. Poppy hopes she's set an example about hard work and discipline.
I'd like to hope that it will really inspire them and, you know, might get a little bit of kudos from the young people that I work with, hopefully.
And hope that Poppy slips up.
Winning her heat sends Poppy through to the quarter-finals. We'll have to wait to see if she can do it again. Nicola Rees, BBC Look North, Wetherby.
Congratulations to Poppy. Brilliant stuff. And it was a double success for Yorkshire contenders on Saturday night, because in the men's event, Joe Fishburn from Scarborough won his heat, breaking the record for the eliminator in the process. Joe, who's also a Team GB gymnast, completed in the gruelling final event in just 63 seconds. That is an extraordinary effort. Well done, him. OK, time to check out the weather forecast with our own gladiatorial forecaster, Paul.
Hardly. Anyway, I can promise you much milder weather, but before...
Tell you about blooming time.
We've had 10 consecutive days without any sun.
Dear me.
So look at Scarborough today, a bit of blue sky. I don't think they knew what was in the sky.
It looks like the mid.
It does look like, well, not quite, but it looks nice enough. Silver Surfer in Scarborough there, enjoying a bit of blue sky. The second picture is blue sky in York as well, so not too bad. And I think we are going to see a bit more of that in the next couple of days. And then second half of the week it turns very mild. If you've got any pictures you want to send to me, addresses are on your screen right now. So big changes coming through the next week. We do start cold but brighter. There will be some sunny spells developing just about everywhere slowly from the south tomorrow. Mostly fine on Wednesday, and then at long last the jet stream is going to break through. There's the cold air that's been sat across us for the best part of 10 days, but the oranges eventually move right through. But unfortunately, as you can see, weather fronts are with that warm air. So we're going to see rain at times. It's going to turn windy, but there's every chance on Friday perhaps we'll see 15 degrees, quite a turnaround on the cards. Now there are the breaks down over the southeast that are gradually going to move northwards over the next 24 hours. And I think this evening and overnight, the cloud will tend to be quite thin. So we are looking at a widespread slight frost across many parts of our region, with most places below freezing, -1 Celsius. That is 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow's high water time, Scarborough 7:24, Bridlington at 7:48. So it's a dry day tomorrow, a chilly one, and as I say, there will be quite a bit of cloud around at times, especially at first, but it should slowly thin and break from the south. So South Yorkshire sees the sunshine first of all, and eventually most of North and West Yorkshire should at least see some brightness and some hazy sunshine at times. But we've still got continental air coming up from the southeast, so it's going to be cold, 4, possibly 5 degrees in Bradford and in Leeds. Wednesday looks not too bad, fine, but the big change comes through Thursday and Friday. It turns windy, unsettled. Look at those temperatures romping away. 15 degrees Celsius, which is 11 degrees more than we've got today. That's the forecast.
Oh dear, the snowdrops are going to be very confused. Do you know, I've enjoyed that forecast so much, I'd like to invite you to come back at 10:30 and do it again.
Oh, you're so kind, Phil.
Brilliant. It's a date.
Thank you.
It's about the best offer I'll get. That's as far as we go for tonight. Take care. Good night.